Gary Stevens is very vocal about the problem of growing wealth inequality and how he thinks we can solve it through taxing the rich. He was recently in a debate on Diary of a CEO with Daniel Priestley, and I want to comment on the debate. I think it was a very interesting discussion. They both come from two very different backgrounds, and one of the things I want to talk about is the difference. I've been thinking about it a lot between these two worlds. I've been aware of these two worlds for some time. I started in 2016, bought my first investment property. Since then, I've had rental properties, I've flipped properties, and then 3.5 years ago, I started an electrical business. And I noticed there's two worlds. There's two different kinds of investors, or some people do both. But the investing where you're putting capital to work, such as buying properties or trading, and then there's the kind of investing where you're growing something. And the people who do the two different things, they don't necessarily know how to do the other or understand the point of view that people from the other come from. So that's one layer of the difference between Gary and Dan in this debate. Another layer is sort of a left-wing difference, where Gary's talking about how the world is set up so there's winners and losers, and the system is getting worse, so the winners are becoming smaller and winning more, and there's becoming more losers, and the losers are getting worse off. It's a very left-wing way of looking at things. And I think the core of the difference comes down to this difference of agency, seeing things in terms of individual agency versus seeing things in terms of a system with a structure with winners and losers. I think both perspectives are very important and valuable. And I want to articulate this difference, and I think it's important to understand both of them. So the debate is a really interesting example of this, because they're both so articulate and so knowledgeable, so it really puts these ideas to the test. I've been really skeptical of wealth tax, or taxing the rich in general, because of the concerns Daniel Priestley raises, which is basically if you tax the rich, they'll leave or they won't be motivated. So capital flight, or people not even bothering to do the hard work of starting a business in the first place. And we need people to create value in society. So a big thing they weren't agreeing on is, I think Daniel was not understanding a few of Gary's points, but I think Gary understood all of Daniel's points, although maybe he didn't give enough credit to just how difficult it would be to tax the rich without disincentivizing the value creation that rich people do. So in economics, there's two main things to pay attention to, which is zero-sum games and value creation. So some kinds of investment, or some aspects of investment, is a zero-sum game where your gains are somebody else's losses. And so like trading is like that. If you trade a stock and make a profit, that profit that you made is, for the most part, somebody else's loss. But the exception to that is where there's value creation. So if you invest in an exploration mining company, and that company finds gold or silver or whatever it is they're looking for, pull it out of the ground and sell it to consumers, sell it to manufacturers, then you can make a lot of money off of investing in that stock at an early stage, and nobody has lost. That company has created value by pulling valuable resources out of the ground, which are then used in electronics or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of information about zero sum versus value creation. And I don't know if Gary quite has the right idea with taxing the rich, because he just sees wealth inequality, the rich having more and more money, poor people having less and less money, and he thinks we can redistribute that wealth through taxes. Or he said in the debate that he's not actually into redistribution, because the redistribution is already happening. The rich are getting richer. They're taking wealth away from the middle class. And he wants to stop that. So he's the only one at the table, he said, who's not for redistribution. But generally, if you're taxing the rich, it's considered a redistribution. But I don't know if that's the right way to see it, actually, because rich people are really good at not paying tax. And if we just figured out how to make them pay their fair share, that would probably make a pretty good difference. So I'll just play this clip now of Daniel Priestley making a point I want to comment on. Okay, editor, the timestamps for this clip are 1 hour 14 and let's say 10 seconds or so. Okay, and then we'll wrap it up at 1:14:40. So this, I think, is a core part of the disagreement. So Dan makes an excellent point there that losing a sense of agency destroys your mental illness. An example of this is being mad at colonization for, whatever they did to your ancestors hundreds of years ago, and thinking you can't get ahead because of systemic racism. It's really unhealthy to see yourself as a victim. But there is also truth to the fact that there is systems in the world that are guaranteed to make a certain number of people losers. So on an individual basis, we should have a strong sense of agency. We should get out of bed with goals, work hard towards our goals, find mentors, have heroes, have role models, and work hard to try to be successful ourselves, because it's true. We can make our lives better through our own endeavors. But the thing that annoys me about these entrepreneur influencers that say, I did this, I got rich, you can do it too, is they don't understand a really basic concept, which is the bell curve. So, an old school education system, the marking used to be a bell curve. So one kid was going to get a C no matter how good the whole class worked. So everybody could get twice as good of do twice as good of a job on the assignment or the test, and still there would be the same distribution of marks because it's a bell curve. I don't think they mark like that anymore. I don't think they have for a long time. But the economy has an element of bell curve to it. So Daniel Priestley has multiple successful businesses that he started. I can bet you if there were an additional 10,000 people who were as clever as him, as hardworking as him, and tried all the same things he did, the chances that he would be successful in the same way that he has been would be greatly reduced. If you had an additional 10,000 people all trying the same thing with the same intelligence and the same hard work, a number of them are going to fail. So what he did worked. The thing is with hyper successful people is they have a survivorship bias. So a survivorship bias is a kind of filter bias where they're actually quite a rare person who has a combination of grit, of luck, of intelligence, and of luck, opportunities, that their success is not entirely their own doing. Not only were they born with some talents, were they hardworking, but they also came into a number of opportunities that made them successful. It's not that what they did is 100% replicable, and if they were born again and had another go at it, they might not succeed in the same way. There is, I think, a such thing as a person who's just that clever, that charismatic, that they could lose everything and then build it all up again from scratch just because of their what they know, what they can achieve, their skills and their hard work and whatnot. But or there's a certain approach to life that makes you successful, where you make a mistake and you learn, you find mentors, you learn from them, you apply something exactly as it's taught to you, and then you understand it, then you iterate on it, you find what works, and then once you find something that works, you repeat it. There's ways to be successful, but there's still a bell curve. And if more people tried this stuff, the world would be a better place. More entrepreneurship is a good thing, but a number of entrepreneurs are always going to fail. So if you had more people doing it, you would just have more failures as well as having more overall success. And it's really annoying that these entrepreneurs that write this self-help stuff are very smart people. And it surprises me that they can't understand the bell curve nature of this, that yes, it's true that you should have a sense of agency and you can be successful by hard work, but it's also true that there is always going to be a certain number of people who fail. And some of those people who fail, it's just bad luck, or somebody else just worked a little bit harder than them, was a little bit smarter than them, or a little bit luckier than them. Somebody else just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and they weren't. They were the one who succeeded. So not everybody who tries to be an entrepreneur is going to do it. And then, even then, he's probably got hundreds of employees. If all of them decided they wanted to be entrepreneurs, he wouldn't have the business. He needs to have employees. So yeah, I know what he'd say to that is that, well, my business brings money into the country, it creates jobs, so they're better off because of me being an entrepreneur than if I had never done this, which I think is true. But it doesn't undermine Gary Stevenson's point that, yeah, we should have a sense of agency, but also there is a system and there will be losers. So we also need to think about the system. The next point I want to talk about is the public opinion idea. This is another thing I think Daniel Priestley did not understand.
These are positive things you can do. We all have to play the cards we're dealt. You can always find someone who's done better with better cards, or someone who's been dealt better cards, and you can always find someone who's been dealt worse cards. No matter who you are on the planet, there's someone better, there's someone worse. You have to play the cards that you're dealt. You cannot sit around waiting for the economic system of the world to be changed. You have to say, you know what? These are the cards I was born at this particular time, in these circumstances. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. I'm going to play the cards that I've dealt. Personal agency is what gets people to feel good about their life, to make progress. And as soon as you play the victim mindset, as soon as you say, oh, you know what, the answer to all my prayers is Gary's going to change the system, you're in serious trouble.
This clip, Dan makes a great point that I agree with, and I've already reiterated. We do, sense of agency, getting out of bed and doing the best we can is super important. That's a very important message to send. But there's also a system that we need to think about, because the way the system is set up has a huge impact on the overall well-being of a huge number of people.
Okay, all right, fine. Go and buy Dan's book, read it, and become a millionaire. Because Dan thinks it's easy to become a millionaire by being an entrepreneur. But I suspect, having not been an entrepreneur, that most of the people who've read your book are not millionaires.
Everything you've touched has turned to gold. You turned yourself to academia, you got an amazing qualification. You turned yourself to banking, you became $2 million a year. You turned yourself to being a writer, you become Sunday Times bestseller. You turn yourself to content creating, you get 800,000 followers. And now you sit there after all of that evidence and say, oh no, it's all over, guys. It's all, I'm smart enough to do it, but you guys are not smart enough.
Here he's typifying this misunderstanding. Like, yes, someone like Gary Stevenson can be really successful at a lot of things they do. One, not everyone is as smart as Gary. There is variations in intelligence. Two, not everyone wants to work as hard as what Gary has worked to get where he is. Some people just want to work a regular job and have a family and not go through all that stress. Gary had a really stressful career, working that crazy job. And the opportunity he got to do that thing is, has that job he got trading. Like, there's only a certain number of those jobs available. And then of the people who get those jobs, only a certain number of people are successful at it. Trading is a really difficult thing to do successfully. Not everyone who takes up trading does it successfully. But with trading, like, especially with day trades, like 100% with day trading or even swing trading, your wins are someone else's losses. So not everyone can do that. Like, Not everyone can have 800,000 YouTube subscribers, because if everyone's got that many YouTube subscribers, who are the subscribers? Who's watching all this stuff? There's only a certain number of influencers that can actually get views, because somebody's got to watch it. There's only a certain number of eyeballs, and those eyeballs are going to congregate on, a certain number of content creators who make interesting content. And if you had more content creators that were successful, they would, by simple math, have to be smaller in how many viewers they had. So it's really, he really doesn't understand this zero-sum aspect. He just thinks it doesn't even exist. I don't know if I fully went into the survivorship bias thing. A survivorship bias thing is like with airplanes in the World War II, they thought all the planes that were coming back had bullet holes in a certain thing, and they thought, maybe we need to put more armor where the bullets are hitting. And then they thought about it some more, and they figured out, hang on, those are the planes that are coming back have those bullet holes. We need to think about the planes that didn't come back, where they got hit, and reinforce those areas in the plane. So a survivorship bias is, the circumstances that make somebody a hyper-successful entrepreneur are incredibly rare. And there's a lot of luck and talent and whatnot that goes into it, and not everyone can do that. A lot of people try that who are just as smart as you, just as hardworking as you, and weren't successful.
The megaphone was
people watching, start a YouTube, become an entrepreneur.
But it's the internet, isn't it?
It's easy.
I'm not saying it's easy.
Do you think it works for most people, Stephen?
For most people, no, it doesn't work.
But
it doesn't work.
Why are we pretending it does?
But what I would say is, if in school we taught young kids a couple of new things, and we stopped teaching them about Pythagoras' theorem, which, by the way, ChatGPT is going to do for you with your eyes closed, and we taught them about the new economy of the internet, about the ability to start a shop, and it's crazy that the school system was designed in such a way where they put me in exclusion unit because I was so preoccupied with doing business deals.
Yeah, the education system is definitely something we're going to focus on. There are a lot of changes that could be made to the education system to set young people up for better success and for them going out into the workforce and creating a better world. That's a very valid point, but none of that debunks Gary Stevenson's core point about there's systemic things that need to be adjusted to fix wealth inequality. Now is a good time probably to explain Gary Stevenson's core thesis. So growing wealth inequality is a very bad thing for a few reasons. One of the obvious reason is more poor people, and those people being poorer is obviously bad. But when that happens, there's a catch-22 effect, because when regular people have more money, they go out and spend it on, like if you had a really wealthy middle class, it would be easy to make a living as an artist, because people have surplus income and they're going to go and play it and spend it on watching a musical. They'll buy a painting. They'll pay for seeing a concert and so on. Whereas if rich people have money, so yeah, when regular people have money, they go and spend it in the ways that creates opportunities for businesses. So they spend it on goods and services, and that creates a vibrant economy. When rich people have money, they're already paying for all the arts and goods and services they could possibly consume. So the only thing they can spend it on is assets. So they start competing with everyone with regular people for housing stock and various other assets, and that drives up housing prices and makes it unaffordable for people to buy a house. And that's a very bad thing for obvious reasons. And also when rich people have more money, they can carry political favors. So something needs to be done to reduce wealth inequality, because it destroys the economy and it destroys quality of life and living standards. There was another clip I wanted to play, but YouTube didn't keep my comments at the top of the video, and I don't know where it went. But the other clip was Gary Stevens and Dan disagreeing over the importance of swaying political opinion and public opinion.
Applicable strategy. And look, it's very easy for people like us who've made money to say, we did it, aren't we great? Go out and, you've said that you think if young people go and work in tech business, they can get financial security. If it was that easy, they'd all be doing it. You know, they're not idiots. Our viewers are not idiots. They're trying. They're trying. They want to find the good opportunities, and they work. Listen, they're working so hard. I'm not the one
saying they're idiots. You're the one who says that they can't do it anymore. I see people do it all the time. Like, I'm working in entrepreneur.
People from poor backgrounds. But then why are our viewers? You think all of our? If it was that easy, why is everybody not doing it?
I'll tell you why people aren't doing it. We went through a schooling system that taught us how to get an office job.
Okay.
Right. We went through a schooling system to prepare us for a world that doesn't really exist anymore, which is the Industrial Revolution world. And you have to go through a process of figuring out how it really works. So what I see is that most often the people who do really well financially who are young, they dropped out of school, they dropped out of university, they started learning how to do things by doing their own research. They start their own business or co-found a business. They take a very alternative path. None of that was taught to us at school. None of it's taught to us in normal society. We have a school system that manufactures people for a set of skills that are not particularly valuable anymore, and we also get them in debt for those skills. When people sidestep that and say, okay, I'm not going to get into university debt, I'm just going to go off and actually figure out how the world works, there's actually loads of opportunities.
Okay, so I guess we've sorted it then. All of our viewers need to do is go and buy Dan's book, become an entrepreneur and become a millionaire. It's that easy. Why weren't you guys doing it to begin with? They're idiots. The viewers are idiots. They should be just being more entrepreneurial. It's as simple as that. More entrepreneurial, start a business. Listen, I come from East London, okay? My friends can't feed their kids, okay? And if it was as simple as going out and being an entrepreneur, I can bet you they would do it. I'm sick of multimillionaires telling kids who can't afford to turn the heating on, you just need to be more entrepreneurial. It's sick, Dan, it's sick. But this gives people mental illness. It gives people mental illness. Tell them the truth, okay? Your older generation, we took the opportunities and now it is almost impossible to get out of poverty. And don't just stand up there and wave, your millions of pounds in front of them and say, if you were entrepreneurial like me, you could do it, you could have it. Because it's sick because they can't. They can't feed their kids, Dan. They can't turn the heating on. Don't tell them to be more entrepreneurial. Fix the system that drives more and more and more of them into poverty every generation.
I find it very strange that you think it would be easier to fix the entire global economic system than to start a business and fix your own personal economics. The thing that I know that gives people mental health issues is feeling that they have no agency in their life, that they can't do anything.
Okay, editing Alex here. I couldn't be bothered putting my green screen up, and this is my low effort channel. I found the clip that I wanted. I put a longer clip in than I was planning on when I recorded the van rant, and this is because I thought Dan made some great points about the importance of overhauling the education system and about the value of having a sense of personal agency. I thought it was important to steelman his position by leaving that in there. And now back to my van rant of me explaining the importance of political action and swaying public opinion. And this is very important because there are systemic changes that are needed. There are economic and economic policy and fiscal and tax. There's various things politicians can do that will affect wealth inequality. And first of all, you need to get public opinion because politicians are, there's very much a situation in politics where the tail wags the dog, where politicians aren't really able to follow their best judgment. They have to do what the voters want them to do. So otherwise they won't get voted in, or they won't get voted in a second time. So Thomas Sowell talked about how you need two things, or you need one or the other thing. You either need an informed public that actually wants good economic policy, or you need a politician who's willing to risk his political career in order to do what's needed. And both of those things are incredibly unlikely to happen, because how is that kind of, there might be people like that out there, but how are they going to get into office? And if they do get into office, how are they going to get into office a second time? So there's a clip in the debate, maybe I'll find it and edit it in later, where they're disagreeing on this, and Dan's not understanding how important it is to educate the public and get the public motivated to demand from their politicians the policies that are going to make these changes. And then another portion of the debate was spent debating over taxing the rich and how it could actually be done. I actually think the real problem is rising house prices, and what we really need to do to fix wealth inequality is crash the property market and let it never recover. Don't let property be a vehicle for growing wealth, because gains in property are, for the most part, a zero-sum game. So we need to figure out, I think Gary's doing great work getting people motivated to want this kind of change and understand the need for it. But once we've actually got a large percentage of people actually understanding the need for this and wanting it to happen, then the real hard work is figuring out how to pull it off. Like, how do you crash the property market and then get elected again? I don't know really how you pull that off, because a lot of people have a lot of wealth tied up in property. But after you crash the property market, then you have created an economy where it's easy to get ahead, where it's easy to grow wealth. And I've just got home now, but hopefully it's not too dark. Yeah, I think the video's all right. I want to finish what I've got to say. Then you have an economy where you can do well, where wealth inequality is optimized, where people can get ahead because life becomes affordable. Unaffordable housing is a huge burden on living costs. And yeah, the only way you're going to make changes in that is through educating the public on the need for this. Gary talks about taxing the rich. I think maybe it's difficult to tax the rich just because the rich are just so good at carrying political favors that they're so good at propaganda that they make us all think it's hard to tax the rich. And maybe there is ways to do it, but Dan raised some very good points in the debate, and his core point that was good, I think, is that if you tax the rich in the wrong way, you will destroy the economy because rich people will up and leave. And it's not just about capital flight. A lot of entrepreneurship creates a lot of value in the world. So Dan's only able to see value creation. He can't understand the zero-sum aspect, but he understands value creation really well. And he knows that if you de-incentivize people from entrepreneurship or you drive them out of the country, it's very bad for the economy. So we do need to, what we need to achieve is a economic system, a tax system, which keeps all the incentives in place for value creation. Because if you can be a Steve Jobs and creates iPhones and all this innovation technology that actually makes an affordable electronic device that can land in everyone's hands and has a lot of benefits, then you're going to end up really rich, and you should. There's nothing wrong with that. We need that because those people are motivated by money. If they don't see that there's a huge prize at the end of it, they're not going to get out of bed every day and do the work required to create those innovations and create that value for the world. So we've got to figure out how to take all the incentives away from zero-sum games, from gains that are zero-sum, from economic activities that are winning at someone else's cost. So if your wins are simply someone else's loss, we need to tax that really badly, and we need to de-incentivize it, or maybe even make it illegal. Like in Japan, they have affordable housing for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is they've made it so they've limited the number of apartments that one person can own. When they brought that law in, the market got flooded because these people had to sell, and it hasn't recovered. There's other reasons why Japan has affordable housing. That's just an example. But yeah, this is the core thing I think everyone needs to understand is, we need to keep all the incentives in place for entrepreneurship, for value creation, and we need to destroy all the incentives for zero-sum gains. So Gary's talking about all this wealth inequality, and he's focusing on it as a zero-sum game. And this is a very important focus, and he's maybe overlooking a little bit the costs that could come from de-incentivizing value creation. So there's a balance to be found, but at least if we can understand the need, then we can get started on this. So that's all for today. If you like this sort of stuff, let us know what you think in the comments. Help us in the algorithm with a like and a subscription, and I will catch you in the next one.